Alright, so here we are. Welcome everyone, and a very, very good evening here to WR PC Tier 4 for tonight's time for Round 11, your season finale. And as always, we're going to have a blast. Our champion has been crowned, but we're still going to Japan looking with our heads up straight and with our fins up high as well, because we have a bit of a dangerous intruder here in the chat tonight. You might know me. I'm your host for tonight. My name is Smitsky, but we have a bit of a shark here.
Hello, everybody. It's me, like always, and we're in Japan. I thought I'd wear a shark-related outfit because I think I know they eat shark out in Japan. So yeah, nice. Hello, I am here. How are you, Myth? And yeah, should be an interesting race tonight. The champion's been crowned, so it means that we're gonna have quite an interesting race because now there's no pressure on any of the drivers. Tonight it's all about pride.
I'm just loving the gestures that you're making with your hands, which is, there's no finger to be seen. I really, really love it. Also, season first, we have started well on time with the lobby, which means that we're already in the game. You likely heard already some sound in the background, so we're quickly going to switch over to our in-game view so you can see what is happening here. We have 15 drivers tonight. We see that DV19 has switched his name to his full name, so Dustin Vincent 19, he is your champion of WRT4 here, Season 18. Tim Turnimo, second in the standings, will finish second in the standings, and we still have Lewis Jones, last week's out the race winner, trying to hunt down that third place in the championship. Gabriel Pratizzi, who currently holds that, he has departed. Lewis Jones is only 8 points away from that, so there is still something on the line for him. But if I look at the screen, it looks like one of the Mercedes, sorry, is up ahead first, and that seems to be the Alexa Covero fan. So Max, let's go over to him.
Yeah, here we are then, with the Mercedes driver heading into the Casio Triangle. I know, so crucial qualifying lap here in Japan. It's very easy to get wrong, but when you get it right, it just feels so... We are out to the Casio Triangle, heading down the main straight, DRS open. Just put the car into hot lap, not burn too much battery to head down that main straight into turns 1 and 2. Turns 1's flat, and then into turn 2 down to 4th gear. Pick the power back up nicely, run all the way out wide, and then flick it back over to the right-hand side for turns 3, 4, you take these partially flat, and then into 5, this is just a small lift, get back on the power, and through 6, down a gear, back onto the power once again as you head up into Dunlop Curve. This is turn 7 as you get back on the power nicely, and then just roll the car through this long left-hander and into the first of the 2 Dunlop corners, all Dunlop 1 and Dunlop 2, nicely done through there. As you then head up the hill, and to which what I like to call this hairpin, the Kobayashi curve, down to 3rd gear, very late on the brakes, mate. Multiple lines you can take around that hairpin, some faster than others, but some drivers just like taking a narrower line like we just saw the Mercedes do as we now head back up the hill into Spoon Curve, down to 5th gear, back on the power nice and early, then roll the car through the second part of Spoon, and then back on the power, use all the curb on the exit of the corner as you drive back up the hill as we heading into 130R. This is all about commitment and just try to get that apex at the sweet spot, run the car to that inside and then into the Casio Triangle. Bit on the grass there from Alexi as he now gets back on the brakes. Just manages to avoid invalidating. He's that, but the bollards have gone straight back under his car. That's unsettled him out of the Casio Triangle, up to the line to 27.7. That's for everybody to beat. And then Oliver Knotts instantly beats it in his Red Bull and goes 2 tenths faster.
Yeah, and just like that, Dennis Langrog also cuts in between. He is now at a 127.364. That is your time to beat for time being, as Lewis Jones just surpassed that with 26 thousandths of a second, as we are currently watching Tim Turnimo head out of Spoon Curve onto the long backstretch before he's going to turn left into the 130R, one of the most iconic corners here at Suzuka, as he takes that nicely. Now, of course, in the past, we've seen the drivers take a very wide line, but these cars have so much grip, you can get a much tighter line as he goes nicely through the Casio Triangle onto the main... Oh, actually into the pit lane. I didn't see his time. He was actually not on for a quick one. For Gabriele Stella, on the other end, he is on for a quick run. He is going to put that car on P5 for a time being. Then your championship winner, he is now heading towards 130R. He is about to enter the end of that second sector, sets a purple time, 1:10.6. That seems to be moderately quick as he's eyeing at least to end the season on a high with a hopeful potential pole position on his hands. But here he comes across the line is Dustin Vincent, and he goes quickest. Dustin manages to go 1:27.076. Now the good thing is, well, actually one of the more surprising things, he's only 3.5 tenths away from pole in Tier 3. That was a 1:26.733. He's not far off with that first run, and that just shows that early on, Dustin's got some great pace.
He certainly does, and now the pressure's on his shoulders, sorry. He can just thrive and just not worry about anything for the championship. He can drive flat out and be as aggressive as he wants to be, because he knows he doesn't have to worry about wrapping up that championship. He's already done that, and the focus is now on just winning this race. A 3/10 advantage is so huge around a circuit like Japan, and doing that on your banker certainly means there's more time to find as this track ramps up for Dustin Vincent, our champion. As who else will be coming on to up? I think we're just waiting on Drax, as Aiden has invalidated his lap. So it'll be Drax in his Red Bull heading through the first sector. Now, of course, no time on the board so far. Hasn't set a lap time. I don't think actually has come out the pits until now. A bit of a mischief there. Coming out of Dunlop as he now sets a 31.6 in that first sector. Through Degner 1 and 2. Get back on the power nice and early. Run all the way across that outside curb. And then into the Kobayashi curve of turn 10. Down to third gear. Back on the power as early as you possibly can. Make sure not to light up the rears. And that's exactly what Drax has done as he now heads through this long right-hander which leads you into Spoon Curve. You want to stick to this right-hand side as close to the grass as possible. Down to fifth. Back on the power. Roll it all the way through the second part of the Spoon Curve. And then back on the power. Then you can climb up the hill once again into 130R. Let's see what line Drax decides to take. Does he go wide or does he keep it nice and narrow? And he decides to keep it somewhat centered on the exit there of 130R. Now into the Casio triangle, down to second, short shifting back up to third gear. Nicely done through the Casio. So he heads back down the hill. DRS open across the line. Well in his place, Drax. And it's into 11th place, so 27.920. Not the slowest, but certainly not a lap time he would have wanted to start off his session with, and certainly some time to find there for the Red Bull man. As Tim Tornimo, the man second in the championship, starts his next flying run.
Yes, and here we see him go into Degner 1 and 2 as he takes a lot of speed through the first Degner. Has a little bit of oversteer on exit of Degner 2, does keep it between the lines so the lap's not invalidated, but certainly not the lap he was going for. It looks like Tim's struggling a little bit. He's tried at least, he's attempted to set a lap earlier on. That lap he decided to abort on, not entirely sure where that happened. And he's now heading into Spoon. Car actually a little bit dirty on that left-hand side of it, actually on both sides. Sure if that's a game thing or if it's because he's touched the grass earlier. But here in Sector 2, the Sector 10 we're eyeing for is a 1:10.6. That's what Dustin Vincent set. Tim Tornimo goes 1:11.2. That's about the same time as we saw Drax do. So he's right on for a 27.9 or even a 28.0. Not the best run that your second man in the championship is going to do. And he will indeed chrome across at a 27.959. More drivers are going to be coming out, and I think we should be watching Dennis Langrock. He set a pretty fast first lap time. He's on P3 for the time being. More drivers are on an out lap, but the fastest one out of them is currently him, who's on a hot lap.
Yeah, Dennis up by nearly a tenth of a second in that first sector, just showing there is time to find in that V-carb as he's now heading through turns 9 and into 10. Let's see what line he takes. He goes quite wide from the apex to try and give him the best exit he possibly can. A few stabs on the exit to correct the car and keep it running in a straight line. So we head through the long right-hander, up the hill once more. It's such an undulating circuit, this track, that it's so difficult to build a setup for as you exit out of Spoon Curve now. Back down the hill to then go straight back up it. Across the the national pitch straight. Sorry, Meow goes up into second place. That's a brilliant lap time from the Hash driver, of course. In Mexico, we saw him on the front row as well. So Dennis into the Casio triangle, locks up the front right, takes a lot of those apex curbs. What's Dennis going to be able to do as he comes across the line? DRS open, and it's good enough for second place. A 10th and a half found there for Dennis Langrock. Lewis Jones is just starting his next flying lap. He currently sits now in 4th after Dennis's lap. He was the closest challenger to Dustin off those first runs. So what's the Ferrari man going to do? The prancing horse, can he put himself at the top of the times? And the man currently on a good run of form at the end of this season is looking to gallop his way to another pole position.
Yeah, and then the other man, the Papaya Orange, is currently up 4/10 on his own lap time. Tim Byers currently flying across the track. If he does not lose any time at that final sector, he's on for a provisional pole position. We go on board with the McLaren driver. Tim Byers, is it enough for provisional pole? It is enough! He beats Dustin Vincent, his teammate, by 1,000 of a second, and currently is the fastest man on track. But also Lewis Jones, he's on for an improvement, up by 10th already, as we still have 7 minutes left on the clock, but tension is already starting to build up. Now then, second sector, Lewis Jones, he loses quite a bit of time, so Lewis won't be contesting for provisional pole, at least on his second run, as F1 Racer and Aiden put their cars in 3rd and 4th, as I currently want to look what Dustin Vincent is doing. He's up by over 10, he's invalidated! He's invalidated on 200R straight, heading towards Spoon. He's now diving it into the grass right away to clear the 2 drivers that are behind him. But that already shows that Dustin has some extra pace in that car. And if I were one of his competitors, I would be pretty damn scared of it.
Yeah, I certainly would too. Oliver Knott now goes up into 3rd place. The time's tumbling rather quickly here. Time's coming in quick and thick and fast as well. But for Tim Bayer, what a lap that was. But we know that Dustin Vincent has that time in the bag and can easily topple his teammates' provisional pole position and ruin anybody's shots for pole position in this session, you would think. So, is Dustin going to go for another run? Yes, it does seem so. He does have enough fuel to go again. So DRS open as he heads down the main straight. He's burnt a bit more battery than we've seen other people do in that heading down that main part of the circuit. As you then head into turns 1 and 2. A little bit wide from the apex, but he can carry the speed through the corner as he heads through 3. Look at how much commitment Dustin Vincent is showing here through turn 5 and into 6. That's going to be a compromised line because a little bit wide through turn 5. I think he's taking a bit too much energy out of these tyres. We'll see sector 1 split now, and we'll see if he's up on his lap time or not. Now down by half a tenth in that first part of the lap. Nicely done, though, through the 2 Degners. Seem very committed and very clean. Let's see how smooth he's turned 10 is. A little bit of a rear locking moment, and again, a few stabs at trying to get the car straightened up. But for Dustin, this is just all about finding even 0.02 of a second to beat his teammate. And, of course, this is a lap on 1 lap older tyres, but a bit of a scrappy Spoon curve as well, taking too much inside curve at the first part, sending him out wide for the middle of the corner. That's surely going to stop any chances of a pole position attempt. He has aborted. He's down by 1.2 seconds. And unfortunately for Dustin Vincent, just that extra lap of build-up on that tyre has cost him a chance at provisional pole position. And Tim Bayer still holds on. Tim Tornimo, once again, is on a lap, currently slowest of the drivers so far, but in the first sector, up by a 10th of a second. And this time, it seems like a lot cleaner through Degner 2.
Yeah, so we've watched Tim Tornimo earlier on, as we're now on board with Gabriel Estella, who is up by 23 thousandths of a second, but does not take the Degners as he should. Goes in way too hard, bit of a snap, and then had a little bit of a slide heading into the second Degner, although the hairpin does seem to come around nicely. Now he's going to go on to the back section of the circuit, heading over 200R towards Spoon Curse, turn 13, and then diving it into 14. This is quite tough to do. He seems to do it fairly okay, but comes out way too wide out of Spoon. That should be lap aborted, and by the looks of it, he's trying to continue, but he's down by half a second, so won't be going for an improvement. A man who was trying to do so, Kevin West, also has a bit of issues on his own as Tim Tornimo's just come across the line in P8. Miao is currently still on for a run, and that's a pretty good run. In the first sector, up by 2 tenths, but has lost 6 tenths in that second sector. So also Miao not on for a flyer for the time being, and that means they'll be heading into the pit. Still 3 minutes left. We will have one set of extra runs. We did not improve that much in the second run, only 1,000 of a second, but we know there's more in the tank for a few drivers, and I think we'll be looking between about 4 to 5 drivers that can get a potential pole here. But I think the man we should be having our most eyes on is your championship winner, Dustin Vincent. He seems to have the most in the tank.
He certainly does. Of course, that lap is still his first run of the session, and we saw before he invalidated, he was up by 1/10 of a second on his second attempt in just that first sector alone. So we do have still, I would say, yeah, that top 8 is all full of pole position contenders. Because look at that, 2 tenths separating the top 8 drivers in this field, and then a 2-tenth gap back to Tim Tornimo. But we've got he got 27.4. He was up, he improved by half a second on his original lap time. So he's now off the back row and up to 9th. We know though, for Tim, this season him, if that qualifying's not really been his strong. Oh, okay, he's just crashed into the pit lane wall. But qualifying isn't really his strong suit. He's very good in those races and making his way back up the order. So Tim is certainly someone to look out for in the races, and if he's able to keep that 9th place or around about there, he certainly can make his way back through the field. But Japan, a very, very tricky circuit to pass on. And the Williams of Aiden. Oh, and he's just made a mistake through the final chicane. And that is going to be all chances of a pole position gone there for Aiden. He's had a horrid start to this lap. The tyres will be dirty heading down into turn 1. And he's going to have absolutely no speed heading down this main straight. So heading through turns 1 and 2, what is Aiden going to be able to do? Keeps a nice and narrow line compared to other drivers through the first 2 corners. As he now heads through turns 3, 4, and then a bit of a slide out of the rear end there through turn 4, and then into 5 and 6. Back on the power nicely, fling it all the way back out to that right, then click that inside curb through Dunlop, and then back on through the power as you're constantly holding the sit down by in that first sector. So that earlier mistake of the Castillo triangle hasn't hurt him too much, but as he now heads up into turn 10, down to 3rd gear, back on the power as nice and early as he possibly can, using the outside curve. The only driver I've seen use that so far, Aiden, to use that outside line and make it work somewhat well and not have too many stabs at getting the car straightened up. So now through Spoon Curve, down to 4th gear, back on the power, just roll the car through all the way to that right-hand side, and then back up the hill as you see. Aiden, what's this going to be in the middle sector split? The Williams driver looking to get onto that front row. He's down by 66 milliseconds, so needs a monstrous final chicane if he wants to be able to get onto that front row, and no, invalidates his lap time. Poor there from Aiden, a very scrappy lap, and unfortunately the best he can get is 4th place. Dustin Vincent has not improved. He was up in the first sector, but has aborted his next run. So Tim Bayer, he's up by 1/10 of a second in that first sector. Oliver Knott nearly up by 2 tenths in the first sector alone. Here's the man you need to keep your eye on here. The Red Bull driver looking to try and snatch pole position away from Tim Bayer, who took one earlier on this season in Mexico. So for Tim, he's now exiting out of Spoon Curve. We have more drivers coming up to the line. It's Lewis Jones. Lewis Jones up to the top. A brilliant lap time from the Scuderia Ferrari, but Tim Bayer is still up by what he needs. Just over half a tenth as he enters the Castillo triangle, taking too much inside curve, and as he's run over, too much time lost there for Tim Bayer. He can't beat Lewis Jones. So all eyes are now on Oliver Knott, who's down by 1/10.5 in the middle sector. He has lost so much time, and too aggressive out of the Castillo triangle hinders his chances at pole position, and it's the man on fine form in the last few races. Lewis Jones, after a win in Saudi Arabia and Mexico, backs it up with a pole position here in Japan. That man is on fine form, and if you can't beat him, you might as well just start behind him, because wow, Lewis Jones, when the pressure is on, That man just knows how to how to get on pole position.
Yeah, he manages to deliver at the very end of the session, putting that Scuderia Ferrari on pole position and sharing that front row with Tim Beyer. Then it's your championship winner, Dustin Vincent, with Oliver Knott, followed by F1 racer Aiden Herg, Dennis Langrock, Meow, Alexi Cavera Fan, and Drax. And then outside the top 10, Tim Turnimo, Mouchoir, Gabriela Stella, Dallin McTeer, and Kevin West. But yeah, 3 drivers behind Lewis that were on quicker lap times either made a mistake or invalidated that cost them, because I think all 3 of those drivers had enough pace to go for a 126.8. They had the pace to go for it. They just managed to make a slight error, and that did allow Lewis Jones to get that pole position. So great job for him as we see our Sharks suiting back up. We have a little bit of a break as well, because we are going to have a lobby restart, meaning that we are going to have Slipstream back enabled. And that gives us a little bit of time to talk about the track for today, because we really haven't had a lot of chance to talk about it. So to just take you through it briefly, we are racing tonight at Suzuka International Racing Course, track operated by Honda, 18 corners, 5.807 kilometers, 3.608 miles. A lap record in the real F1 set by Lewis Hamilton, 1:30.983, although I do believe that will be broken soon, if not already. And let's see, pit lane time loss, 17.65 seconds. 66% of the race is full throttle of a lap. And there is just one DRS zone, and that is at the pit straight, the start-finish straight, as we have a little bit of a squabble what we're seeing so far. But this is a track where championships have been decided in the past. We've had it decided last week in Saudi, but this track really has produced some epic races, hasn't it, Max?
Oh yeah, it certainly has. Of course, you've had all that Prost versus Senna, and then you had Raikkonen coming back through the field. I want to say in 2003 or 2004, around here from the back of the grid after a tricky qualifying where the weather changed. It was 2005.
Yeah.
I knew it was one of these McLaren years. I couldn't remember which one. But yeah, you've had so many great races. It's such an iconic circuit, and for it to be the final race on the calendar, it's just where it really belongs. A bit like Brazil, it needs to be one of the final few races of the season because it can really shake things up. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers take this one. Of course, there's no championship on the line. It's a circuit which rewards aggressive racing. And if you're able to pull off some moves into turns 1, maybe even into turn 10, a late lunge, you could certainly see yourself rewarding quite nicely and maybe even getting 2 moves at once.
Yeah, and we've seen some moves around the outside as well into turn 1, so definitely the start will be one to watch out for. But this is also a track that has been plagued with rain, both here at WOR, but also in the real world. We've seen that the race, at least the start in Tier 3, was quite wet. Although all the drivers did start on the intermediates, it was pouring out there in Suzuka for them. But of course, most drivers will not be going for the wet weather tires unless it is getting really extreme. So if we do see some rain here tonight, we will likely see some intermediates. I hope we do get a little bit of rain, Max. I do think that would spicing things up a little bit. And I think you'd feel more comfortable in the wet as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you can see I'm already having my little say on the weather of what I want. I do love a good old rainy Japanese Grand Prix.
So, commentator's rain dance.
It is. It's a commentator's rain dance. You put on the shark costume. Just make sure you get the right weather. I'll thrive in the wet. And yeah, it will be a good race. But even in the dry, Japan is a very a good circuit and an action-filled race to watch, especially on this game with all the slipstream and the DRS. It makes it even better, especially down that main straight. You can see up to 4 wide at times. So it's certainly a race that's, even after the first corner, unlike previous games, can be decided on that final lap into that run into the Casio triangle. So that is really what the driver's going to be looking for, maybe. That second run, that final lap, being in second place, that run all the way from Spoon Curve into 130R in the Casio triangle could be where they make their winning move, and for a final race of the season, for it to be decided into the final chicane, that'll be something very, very nice to watch.
Yes, it will indeed be lovely to watch, as we will have a race spanning over 27 laps tonight, so half race distance, as we currently see our drivers pick their cars once more, as the lobby has now been set up. And it looks like Tim is also alerting the drivers of this. And weather set to dynamic, so we won't know what the weather is going to be like until we load into the game. And of course, Max will be taking a little bit of a look at what the strategies are going to be. I won't do that myself. Don't want to have anyone lurking and try to steal one's other strategies in that sense, although you can still see it in game, but I'd rather not give it away until the race has started. We'll have a few extra minutes to still talk, and I think that gives us a little bit of time to reflect on the season and on all the things that we have seen, because last week out, you missed quite the race there, Max. We've had some safety cars, we've had heartbreak, we've had some crashes, and we've had a final lap to remember, where Tim Tornemo was in 4th place, needed a race win with your now championship winner in P5, Dustin Vincent. But we saw a late lunge coming from the man in 3rd, almost taking out the man in 2nd. Tim Tornemo promoted onto 2nd place in that final corner. And then we saw Lewis Jones had a snap oversteer coming out of turn 27 onto the main straight. So we thought for a second, is Tim Tornemo going to do this? Because had he won that race, the championship would be on 25 points, meaning that it would not have been decided yet. But with a little bit of ERS remaining, Lewis Jones did hang on to that race win, and with that, we were able to crown a champion. Had a nice interview with Dustin. He's also been able to say a few words in German, in his native language, and to make that loop onto the German, we of course have a very famous German who has named the first 2 corners here in Suzuka, don't we, Max?
Yes, Sebastian Vettel. I am right. It is the B corners. They were painted yellow and black for this year's it was this year's Grand Prix, I think. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I missed out on a really, really exciting race last time out, and I'm really disappointed. I missed it because what an ending. I watched the stream back a little bit, and it wasn't ending. That seemed to be absolute chaos on that final lap. And yeah, it's a shame I weren't here to see the champion be crowned. Hopefully, I can have a word with him tonight if he gets on the podium to just ask him a few questions about his season, because it has been one of the one very dominant season from Dustin Vincent. I mean, he's only finished off the podium 3 times so far this season, with all 3 of them being 4th places and then 1 DNF as well. So it's been an absolute such a masterclass of a season from Dustin Vincent, and if he can get another win here this evening, it'll round off an absolutely perfect season from him, and thoroughly deserved champion in my opinion, just due to the consistency he's had, where whenever he's finished a race, it's always been in that top 4.
Yeah, he's been very, very consistent. 2 other drivers that have been consistent, but more towards the latter end of the season. That was, of course, Tim Tornemo, who's finished 2nd in the championship, and the man who's still eyeing 3rd in the name of Lewis Jones, the man who won your last race in Saudi and is now on pole position for the race in Japan, as we are currently loading into the game. So in a moment, I'll be switching our view, and we still have a few minutes to talk before the race starts. And Max, I think that gives us a nice opportunity to just reflect on the season and all the things that we have seen. What's been your favorite race so far?
Oh, favorites. I've really enjoyed the last lap battles that we saw in Mexico and Bahrain. They were some very, very entertaining squabbles that we saw. But I did like the season opener. I mean, 1,000th separating that top 2 at the line. That was such a chaotic Grand Prix, and what a way to open up that season. So yeah, I feel like Bahrain, Mexico, and Australia are certainly my favourite races of the season, and maybe Brazil as well, because that was a very, very frantic end to that one too.
Yeah, Melbourne, definitely one of the best ways to start the season. I think one of the season highlights. Make sure to watch back that race because we had everything: overtakes, safety cars, virtual safety cars, crashes, hard break at the start finish line. We've had so much going on there. And of course, last week it was action all the way throughout. So much overtaking going on, action almost every single lap. So I think based on how action-packed it was, last week was definitely the highlight, where we almost had the championship extended until this week. But with the second place for Tim Tornimo, that championship has already been decided. We see a little bit of dark clouds in the background. I don't think we're going to be getting any rain. At least I don't see any players mentioning it in the Discord chat. But as soon as the waiting for players has ended, the drivers have chosen their strategies and setup, we will be getting this race underway. Remember, we have 15 drivers out here tonight. We have most of the things already decided. The most important thing will be that third place for Lewis Jones. So we'll be taking a close eye on the man that is currently sitting in pole position. He's shared there by Tim Beyer, the McLaren teammate of your championship winner Dustin Vincent, who we find in P3. And them three will be having a proper squabble heading into B1 and 2, as we should call it. I think that's the easiest way to refer to it.
Yeah, I think it certainly is, and it's just going to be so interesting to see how this race does go, especially with Lewis Jones being on pole position, where we've seen him make his way up through the order, especially in Bahrain. He was, I think, qualified 14th, made it all the way up to the top of the field, and then, of course, Mexico and Jeddah. He's been up there since about Bahrain onwards. He has been looking ever so threatening at taking race victories. So he is certainly someone to look out for. And I would also say someone further back who I wasn't really expecting to qualify so low is Gabriele Stella. He certainly could be someone to look for as well. But the lights are about to go out, so Myth, take us away.
And the lights are out already as we are on our way for the main race. It looks like the Ferrari had a little bit of a tricky start, but actually it's Dustin Vincent who's on the outside of Tim Beyer, trying to go for that overtake. Has to take the long way round, but we've seen that be successful. He will have to yield there heading into turn 3, and that actually allows the Red Bull driver of Oliver Knott to have a look down the inside. He is now... Oh, Dustin Vincent is pushed off! Dustin Vincent's in the gravel, and he will be... Oh, there's contact! There's contact with Dustin Vincent and Gabriele Stella. Gabriele Stella's lost part of his front wing. Dustin's at the back of the grid. And I think this man will be very happy that the championship is concluded, because that would have been a tear-jerking start to this race. As further up ahead, we don't have too many issues going on, but it's actually one of their Mercedes drivers going slow. That's Kevin West, who is also... missing a front wing end plate. So a lot of carnage going on right at the start. I think with the Aston, because the Aston Martin up ahead has lost the front wing end plate. And I think Bouchoir also has got damage. There are 4 or 5 drivers that have damage in lap 1.
An absolutely frantic start to this Japanese Grand Prix. An F1 racer is going past Oliver Knott into 130. Already pulls the move off. A brilliant move from the Scuderia Ferrari as he now moves himself up into those podium places on the end of lap 1. But yes, many drivers picking up some front wing damage. I think Dustin Vincent actually caught a bit of a slide out of turn 5. I saw it happen to Lewis Jones as well, as Dennis Langrock is now going to the outside of Oliver Knott. The V-carb on the marbles, just understeering wide from the Red Bull, and unfortunately wasn't able to get the move done. We'll have to sit behind Oliver Knott through the entirety of this first sector. Stella, Vest and Muchar into the pit lane, and they will change onto a set of mediums and change their front wings. But yeah, Dustin, I think, caught a bit of a slide. It happened to Lewis Jones, and it put him on the gravel. And unfortunately, Gabriele Stella just decided to, unfortunately, understeered with that damage and just clouted into the side of him. But tyre strategies. Meow, Drax, Alexi, Tim, all on the hards. Everybody else on the medium compounded tyres. You could have added Kevin Mukwai and Gabriele Stella onto that strategy if it wasn't for their wing damage. But yes, everybody else on that medium compound of tyre. So it's going to be interesting to see how Meow does on those hards. He's the highest of those hard runners, currently sitting in 6th place, with Aiden all over the back of him. He's nearly dropped from DRS of Dennis Lamrock in front. He has dropped DRS, and here comes Dennis Lamrock round the outside of Oliver Knott into 130R. That was beautiful from the V-Carb. A better move than what we saw F1 Racer do. And Dennis Lamrock puts himself into 4th, and Oliver Knott, after some strong qualifying pace, just seems to find himself falling backwards here in Japan.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we see Aiden getting the pass onto Meow on the start-finish straight. Meow immediately pulled over to the right side because he knew there was no holding Aiden. So he's going to allow Aiden to kind of punch a hole into the wind, so to speak, so that he can get back into DRS range and that Meow can follow. But he needs to make sure he doesn't allow that gap to get too big, because it's already up by about 7/10 as Aiden's brought it back into 1.2. Kevin West is in once more into the pit lane. Let's see why that is the case. And it is for tires, it is for hards, but I think either lagging out a little bit or he had to change his front wing as well. I think this might have been an extra front wing change, so he must have had damage once more. It does shuffle it up for him a little bit more. He is hoping for a safety car later down the line, as we currently see F1 Racer getting really close to the back of Tim Byer. F1 Racers had a brilliant start so far to this Japanese Grand Prix, and we had a little bit of a moment of Tim Byer up ahead. That will open the door for F1 Racer. He's gone past 1 at 130R, but can he do it again? Or is he going to do that into the Casio Triangle? He is definitely a lot quicker. Has to go for a switchback, but decides to... Ooh, big slide once again by Tim Byer. I think F1 Racer will smell his opportunity and go for it now. Down the start-finish straight. Already oh so close. Just a 10th away. Needs to use a bit of ERS, using as much as he can. But Tim Byer has enough to defend, and he, in turn, has to break out for Lewis Jones. They are also close and so grouped up, as Dennis Langrock's also in with a 10th. And we see the top 5 caught in one shot, as Aiden Hurk's now 1.7 away, 1.6. That will be too far, at least for the time being. Dustin Vincent's also still struggling to get to the back of Tim Tornimo. That gap 1.5. But up ahead, the top 5, within a second of one another, also close.
They certainly are. It's super close. It's Aiden with a big slide in the background, and he just is able to keep control of the car. He rejoins just in front of Alexei, and he just tapped. I think he just got a bit over, too much over the curb, bottomed out. And for Aiden, so lucky to not put that one into the wall and be out of this Japanese Grand Prix. But now we look back up at that top 5, and F1 Racer looking ever racy behind Lewis Jones. He has come out of those starting blocks firing at this moment in time. He's getting closer to the McLaren and closer and closer. Lewis Jones is starting to drive away a bit up the road. He's gained about a 10th of a second on the 2 behind in the past lap. Goes a bit deep into the Casio Triangle, though, does the Welshman, as he now gets back on the power. What will F1 Racer do behind Tim Byer this time around? DRS open for the pair of them. They're getting closer to the Ferrari in front of Lewis Jones. Here comes Tim to the inside line. A late defense from Lewis, but Tim managing to find a car's width, but Lewis holding that one round the outside. Look at the Ferrari go. The Welshman is able to hold on, and only just, without having any DRS assistance, he was able to keep his car in front, brilliantly held round that outside there from Lewis Jones, as Tim is now still under pressure from F1 Racer behind. Look at the way Dennis Lamrock and Oliver Knott are pushing each other through the corner as well. It really is a sheet of paper can cover this top 5. And as they head now into the Kobayashi curve for the 5th time in this Grand Prix, it's all starting to get a little bit tense. At the top of this order, Lewis Jones knows he's a bit vulnerable from Tim behind, but Tim will still need to watch his rear view mirrors, as here he goes round the outside through the 230 straight and an into Spoon curve on the inside. Goes wide though. This is where Lewis can fight back, as he can get a good run out to Spoon curve, but Tim just having the legs on the exit of the corner, as here comes F1 Racer now fighting his teammates to try and get the move done. And Dennis Langrock now capitalises the V-Carb round the outside once again into 130R. Dennis is loving that corner as Oliver Knott's been caught out, and he spun round into the wall. Oliver Knott caught out under braking, and unfortunately for the Red Bull, he locks the rears, spins into the wall, loses an end plate, and that's the Red Bull's day over and done with, unless there's a safety car. And here comes Lewis Jones once again back on Tim Bayer, and he moves himself up into the race lead once more around the outside into turn 1. But what a series of events that was, and for Oliver Knott, it's absolute heartbreak on lap 5 of the Grand Prix.
It's heartbreak for Oliver Knott indeed, but it looked like he had front wing end plate damage. He indeed has that damage, but had opted not to go into the pit lane. That did not seem to be the best decision for the other drivers, as there seems to be a little bit of contact with the McLaren and Ferrari driver. They're still fighting for P1. A little bit of a moment for a McLaren driver who's ghosted out, and it's actually Dennis Langrock starting to come by him. They're now inside of one another, almost driving at the exact same spot here of the track. Where the hell are they going to come out? And Drax is actually almost caught up because of all the fighting up ahead. Lewis Jones still holds the lead. Dennis Langrock is now starting to get ahead of Tim Bayer. But when will Tim Bayer come back in? Because they're still ghosted into one another. This is what we do get with that ghosting. But when is he going to be teleporting back? They still go at the same spot of the track, heading towards 130R. Almost half a lap. They've been at the same spot of the track, but I think now into the braking zone, one of the drivers will be getting ahead of one another. And it looks like the better line is now for the McLaren driver, but can he get out of that window? It is oh so close here tonight. And now it's Dennis Langrock starting to pull away, and now he's out. Dennis Langrock onto the inside, and he takes the race lead. And for a second, I thought F1 Racer was able to follow with Tim Bayer, but no, Dennis Langrock now leads. Oliver Knott has retired from the race into the pit lane, so he's our first DNF of the day. We are 7 laps down, but so much action already going on, Max.
Yeah, so much action. We've formed pretty much 2 groups of cars. That top 4 and everybody all the way down to Dustin Vincent. So from 5th down to 10th. So we have a 4-car train and a 5-car train in this Grand Prix. Drax has started to catch up now, so he could start to join this train within the next few laps or so. Those hards will start to feel better than those mediums within the next 2 laps or so, and that's when Drax can really start to pull this train together and make them fuse as one. But for F1 Racer, he's still all over the back of Tim Bayer. Of course, Tim now the meat in a Ferrari sandwich as we exit out of Spoon Curve once more. Lewis Jones could be looking for a move on Dennis Langrock, who has come out the blocks firing, has the V car, but he's really looked aggressive at this Grand Prix. Nothing to lose for him, of course, as Lewis Jones is getting closer. He's going to look to the outside line. Oh, gets blocked off a bit, squeezed to that left-hand side, and luckily for the pair of them, no harm is done. So as we now exit the Casio Triangle, Tim Bayer's had a poor run out of there. Lewis Jones is now going to get the move done on Dennis Langrock. There goes the Scuderia Ferrari on to the V-Carb, and Tim Bayer still just staying ahead of F1 racers for now. Drax did lose a bit of time over the course of the lap. That gap now 1.1 between the top 4 and Drax. So this is going to be interesting to see how those hard runners do over the next few laps. But Lewis Jones still leads from Dennis Langrock, Tim Bayer, F1 Racer, and Drax rounds out your top 5. And throughout the field, everybody's in their own mini battle. And certainly, Drax can start to make his way up into that top 4 within the next few laps, because those hards are certainly becoming the quicker tyre and the tyre you want to be on at this stage of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, the hards are really starting to come alive. The gap, which was about a second at the previous lap, now down to 7/10. So in the next DRS zone, I think he lost a little bit of time at the Casio Triangle because he seemed to be within DRS range. But now he most certainly is, as they're going to make their way towards the end of lap 8, the start of lap 9, almost 1/3 race distance that we have covered. As we see further up ahead, Dennis Langrock, Tim Bayer, F1 Racer getting oh so close to one another. Drax again falling outside of that window, and I think he is once again going to miss out on that DRS. I do want to see if he has it. Does Drax have that DRS enabled? He needs it. He needs it. He does not have it. And that means up ahead, we're going to see more position change. But it's actually Dennis Langrock into the pit lane. 2 men go in for it for turn 1. But F1 Racer wisely decides to back out of it, because otherwise he could have potentially hit his teammate Lewis Jones off the track here. But we've had our most important pit stop come through so far. Dennis Langrock has switched from those mediums onto the hard tires. Needs to make those last for 18 to 19 laps. That will be a tough ask, but performing the undercut here at a track where it can be also powerful does mean that the man currently on mediums will need to act soon.
Yeah, they certainly will. This now could trigger a whole pit stop effect. And for Dennis Langrock, he now has the cards against his chest. He can now just push those hards for a little while just to make sure he gets that undercut effect, because they are the quicker tyre now. That certainly is the fact, because look at Meow. He's 8 tenths behind F1 Racer as we're about to enter Spoon Curve, and he did seem to be a bit quicker than what we saw Drax was doing. So look, now 6 tenths. It will probably just go back up to 7 just before the end of this straight. And no, he's actually gaining and gaining on the 2 Ferraris in front. So Meow, certainly the quicker driver so far. But let's see what this top 3 do. Do they react to Dennis Langrock, or do they still think it's too early to come into the pit lane for some hards? Tim Bayer reacts. Lewis Jones reacts. And unfortunately for F1 Racer, because Lewis Jones reacted, he has to stay out for an extra lap. So the Scuderia Ferrari has to stay out on those mediums for one more tour of this Suzuka circuit. And that is going to be certainly not what he would have wanted. And that just allows Dennis to get that upper hand on him, because the traction is so crucial. Also, for that, having those fresh hards can really help. Lewis and Tim now heading down at that pit lane. I think Lewis got held up slightly because he's miles behind Tim. But look how far ahead Dennis Langrock has come out front in the pit lane. Hang on. And Aiden's jumped Tim and Lewis Jones. So what's happened in the pit lane? Because Aiden has jumped the 2 drivers that were in the net podium places in the pit lane. So something very, very strange must have just happened in the pit lane. Was there some front wing damage for Lewis Jones and Tim Bayer?
Must have been. I think there might have been a moment when they entered into the pit lane, as that caused them a little bit of extra time, allowing Aiden to get through. But I did not see exactly what happened there. I hope we can get some notes about that after the race, so we can at least cover it before we head offline today, as we see F1 Racer still leading the race, but Meow really starting to go for the overtakes there. Dustin Vincent also catching up with Alexi in P4 for the time being, but now F1 Racer, is he going to defend against Meow, or is Meow just going to wait for a start-finish straight? F1 Racer really needs to come into the pit lane now, with the other drivers coming in so early, and indeed does send it down into the pit lane now. The big question is, he will likely come ahead of Tim Bayer and Lewis Jones, likely ahead of Aiden as well, but how far away from Dennis Langrock is he going to be? That will be the key question here, as we have more drivers into the pit lane, Dustin Vincent and Dan Lemaitre. But here comes Dennis Langrock across the start-finish line. We have F1 Racer starting to leave the pit lane here, and it will be fairly close, but Dennis Langrock is up ahead. Looks like the undercut was not that strong, but Dennis Langrock does have 1.6 seconds. Needs to try and keep that gap. If he can keep that going, he's on for a good one. If F1 Racer is going to catch up with him, this will be a very, very tough ask to defend later on in the race, when his tires are just a little bit older.
Yeah, it certainly will. We'll have to wait and see how Dennis Langrock manages those hard compounded tyres, because that 2 laps at the end of the Grand Prix could be oh so crucial for F1 Racer and his race-winning hopes. As we now head into turn 10 with Dennis Langrock. He's 12 seconds behind Tim Tornimo, so there's plenty of clean air to push into. And during all of that, Tim Bayer was able to get past Aiden, and Dustin Vincent has managed to get the overcut on Lewis Jones. So I really want to know what happened to Lewis in the pit lane there, because it was really confusing. He's come out 5 seconds. He came out 5 seconds behind Tim Bayer, and now nearly 4 seconds behind Dustin Vincent. So something obviously went really wrong into the pit lane phase. And for the man that started on pole position, this is not how he would have wanted to end his season after being on such a strong spell of form. So, as we head back into the Casio Triangle with F1 Racer, who's been actually closed in on by Tim Bayer over the course of this lap, who will have DRS to defend from Aiden behind. Tim now sets the fastest lap of this Grand Prix, but Aiden's getting closer and closer. He's using that slipstream nicely, just not going to get close enough into and 2, Meow, of course, currently leading the way on those hard compounded tires. He'll be on the mediums at the end, same with Drax. So it'll be interesting to see how those hard runners come back through the field once they move on to those mediums, because that certainly is the fight we need to be looking out for, because Meow and Drax will be using all the grip they possibly can, all the energy they possibly can from those medium tyres when they switch onto it, which will probably be within the next 5 laps or so.
Yes, indeed. And what I am a little bit surprised about is how early that pit stop sequence came. We already headed into the pit lane at the end of lap 8 and 9. That is not what you normally see with this many laps in total to go. 27 laps that we're going to see tonight. Normally, you would expect your medium runners to come in around lap 11, slightly early. Lap 12 seems to be more normal. Gabriel Estella is still out on those mediums, but he did stop at the first lap as we have a yellow in sector 1. That is Mouchard driving slowly. Seems to have had a little bit of a moment heading out of the Dunlop curve. I don't think he has got damage, but definitely spun out there, and has allowed Kevin West to close the gap onto him. But realistically, Mouchard and Kevin West not really in contention for points today, unless there are going to be some more DNFs. On the other hand, though, we see that Drax has got the overtake done onto Meow. Drax also having superior pace at the moment, using those hards really, really well, but a driver that's definitely faster than anyone else out there on track. Dennis Langrock still keeping that gap to F1 Racer to about 2 seconds. He's gaining a bunch on Tim Tornado, who in turn also lost quite a bit onto Alexi. So I think Tim has also made a slight mistake. But behind Dennis Langrock, there's a few drivers that will be preying on him. Those are Tim Bayer, Aiden Hurgt, and here he is again. Dustin Vincent has managed to close the gap on the drivers up ahead.
Yeah, Dustin really doesn't know how to give up or just stop fighting. He just keeps clawing his way back up from the pit. And that's exactly what he's done as Aiden's now made a mistake. This is going to allow Dustin to capitalise out of turn 10. And the Williams error is the McLaren's gain as he moves up into net 4th place in this Grand Prix. And now onto the back of his teammate. Who would have thought on the opening lap when he had that slide and contact with Gabriele Stella that he would be on lap 13 in that fight for the race victory. Maybe come the end of the Grand Prix, he would have absolutely taken your hand off with that one, as Meow is able to get back past Drax. Them two are doing very nicely with the DRS switches, and it is working well, working together very well. So, as Dennis Langrock still leads the way, 1.8 is the gap between him and F1 Racers. Tim Bay is getting closer and closer, just not close enough to go for a move. Has to back out of it. And Dustin Vincent is still lurking in the wings as well. He's still looking to try and end this season on a high with a race victory. And if he's able to do that, it'll be absolutely perfect. And what a way to end off a championship winning season, to get a win in the final round as well. So for Dennis Langrock, it's all about management from this point onwards. Manage that gap to around about 1.7, 1.8 seconds. And if he's able to do that for the rest of the Grand Prix, he certainly will put himself within a brilliant chance of winning come the end of this race. And the V-Carb just managing out of the Kobayashi curve. Of course, his tyres will certainly be in a lot worse condition come the end of the Grand Prix than the 3 behind him. And that is where we need to look out for, is those closing few laps where those drivers will start to gain, as they'll have the better grip, the better purchase from their hard compound tyres compared to Dennis, and that gap will certainly start to shrink.
Yeah, we see Drax heading into the pits early as well. At the start of lap 15, he decides to switch for the medium set of compounds. He is going for a fairly decent pit stop, but will of course come out behind all the other drivers. Might still come ahead of Lewis Jones, but that is the driver that we need to look out for. In comparison to him, where is he going to come out? Dennis Langrock's now past him, so we'll have F1 Racer, Dustin Vincent, Aiden, and Tim. Here comes Lewis Jones then, and it looks like indeed Drax will come out just ahead of Lewis Jones. But good news for Drax, he's only 2.3 seconds away from the hard runners. He's definitely going to be able to catch up, and I think this is a sign for Meow. Try to extend your stint a little bit if you don't lose too much time. Then go for the mediums, and if those mediums are still good towards the end of the race compared to the old hards, you could still very well win it.
He certainly can. We'll have to see how Drax does, but he really has put himself in prime position to take this Grand Prix victory, and he boxed at the perfect time to switch onto those mediums and close up to the rest of the field in front. Look at the gap between Tim Bayer and F1 Racer since he's got in front of the Ferrari. F1 Racer and Dennis Lamrock since he's got in front of F1 Racer. That gap, 1.1 seconds now. He's absolutely sliced that gap down to nearly DRS range. He's using all the battery he possibly can up the hill into 130R. It just won't be enough, I don't think. He doesn't have the battery to gain any more on Dennis Lamrock, but maybe give it another lap, and he certainly could be within DRS range of the V-Carb in front of him. Meow now into the pit lane, so let's see where he comes out in relation to Drax. Of course, those two were on the road together as Tim now sets a new fastest lap, and here comes F1 Racer and maybe Dustin Vincent as well. Here comes Dustin to get maybe not one but two, and no, just backs out of it. Knew it was too risky to go for the move there, and does elect to just keep his car nice and safe. He knows he can get F1 Racer later on, but that gap to Dennis Lamrock now half a second. So the race is certainly on at the front of the field, and this is now going to get very, very spicy. A V-Carb, two McLarens, Aiden's still in the background as well, and he's Williams, and then two hard-charging medium runners of Drax and Meow, all to fight their way through the field. This is going to be a very dramatic and climactic end to the season, and any of 6 drivers can win this Grand Prix.
A lot of drivers indeed up in contention for the race winners. Dennis is looking to close that gap to Tim Tornimo very, very quickly now. If he does so within the end of this lap, can still get that DRS down the long straight. And then after that, he will have to contend with everyone behind him. So Dennis Lamrock, he has finished on the podium once this season. That was a second place for him, but he's yet to taste victory in the champagne on that top step. But looks like he's gone within a second of Tim Tornimo, so we'll have at least DRS down the start-finish straight. But I think Tim Tornimo is going to come into the pits in not too long for now. But he's actually trying to stay out, maybe hoping for a safety car. But the good thing for Tim is that he will have some really good mediums towards the end of the race. So we'll be able to catch up a bit then. But yeah, the gap, quite unsurmountable, will come out behind. Actually, no, I say that wrong. No, I do say it right. He will come out behind Gabriele Stella. Would have, at least, as Gabriele Stella did not come out of the pit. So as soon as Tim pits, he will come out in P12. And look at that, Dennis Lamrock on the inside of the Dunlop curve, going side by side into Dagner. That's a tough place to go for the overtake, but Dennis Lamrock, he's still fighting side by side, and Tim Tornimo holds him off for the time being, allows the Ferrari to have a look around the outside. Now then, on the inside, a better line for Dennis Lamrock. Now once more, side by side with Tim Tornimo. Has to use a bit of ERS, but Tim still manages to stay ahead as we head towards Spoon. But look at that on the outsides of Ferrari. They go, they push the Ferrari out. There's so much going on with Tim, who seems to be unpassable for a time being. But now here on the backstretch, Tim must be conceding, and there we go, 3 men wide, the Ferrari's on the grass, and he stays on 3 men wide through 130 yard. It's a penalty for Dustin Vincent, but F1 Racer has now taken provisional race lead. Alexi into the pits. Tim Tornimo still following. Dennis Lamrock has finally cleared him, but Dustin will not be happy with that penalty because he had to take quite some evasive action as he now wants to have a look at Dennis Lamrock, who gets so close to the back of F1 Racer.
That's really just fired up Dustin Vincent, that 3-second time penalty. But Tim Tornimo, he's lost the championship, and he's got some front wing damage in this Grand Prix. And he was like, you know what? I might have my own little fun in this Grand Prix. I might cause a little bit of drama to spice things up, and that certainly is what he has done. Dustin with a 3-second time penalty, and F1 Racer now past Dennis Lamrock, and Tim Tornimo now got me all over the back of him. He's managed to get by as the Haas driver into Degner too. I think there might have been some contact with Tim because he did start ghosting, and Aiden now looking to the inside of the Kick-Sauber, and Tim, in a matter of corners, has dropped from the front of this queue all the way to the back. Of course, Aiden will now try out drag him through 230R and managed to get that done quite nicely. As now we look back up at that fight at the front of the field. That's Mukwa, who has made a mistake through the first sector on the exit of turn 2. So unfortunate for the Alpine driver. That brings out the yellow flag. Here comes Dustin Vincent, though, on Dennis Langrock. Just backs out going for the move, but he might go for it into the Casio triangle. He's looking to the inside, dummies to the outside, and not able to get by the V-carb as we head down that main straight once again to start lap 19 of 27. And there we go. Here comes Dustin Vincent on Dennis Langrock. Can he get past F1 Racer as well? The McLaren getting closer and closer, just not close enough. And F1 Racer keeps his race lead. And for Dustin Vincent, he stays in second. Able to get past Dennis Langrock. That's perfect for him. But still, lurking in the background of this battle, the two medium runners of Drax and Meow, and they really are starting to creep up to the back of Tim Bayer and looking like they're certainly within race-winning contention and drivers that could just breeze past the top 4 here.
Yeah, and it looks like in the back, Tim Tornimo has finally decided to go for that pit lane. His strategy not being the most preferred. They're staying out perhaps a little bit too long, but also lost quite a bit of time to the drivers up ahead. And we have quite the fight now going on. There are top 7 that can still get the race win here tonight, although Dustin Vincent almost falling a second behind F1 Racer, and of course he has that 3 second to his name as well. So F1 Racer will be very happy with the way it stands now, because I believe F1 Racer has already picked up a race win in this season. So we'll be taking a quick look at that at the moment as we see Dennis Langrock, but also Drax. Drax is getting really close to the back of Tim Bayer. He's eyeing that P4 and he needs to go for an overtake quickly. There's contact! There's contact with Tim Bayer and Dennis Langrock, and that will open up the door for Drax. Let's go on board with the Red Bull driver, as he's certainly fallen away a little bit already there. And it looks like he won't be going for the overtake, but instead it will be Meow on the inside of the B1 and 2, and around the outside. Drax wants to stay, but will need to concede. Meow has gotten the clearance on him, but that was almost a very nasty accident between Dennis Langrock and Tim Bayer. And in the meantime, F1 Racer, he's got a race win in Belgium. He's got 2nd place in Australia, and that's it for him. So he has gotten a race win already. For Lewis Jones, he has, of course, gotten 2 with 1 last week. Tim Tornimo's not up in contention anymore. Dennis Langrock's just only got a 2nd place. Tim Bayer then. Tim Bayer has... He's only got 1 point to his name. His best finish is 10th place. So he is definitely going to go for a season best here in the season finale. Then it's Drax. Well, Drax should be driving in the Red Bull. Let's see. Drax is, of course, one of our reserve drivers. He's got 12 points. He's got a 4th place to his name. And then we still have Meow and Aiden Hurt. Meow, he, in the Haas, got 21 points. Best finish last week out with a P5. And for Aiden, who is up 9th in the standings, got 39 points. His best place finish is a 3rd place. That was back in round 6 when we were in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, as here comes Dennis Langrock on Dustin Vincent, and there we go, all squeezed all the way to the pit wall was Dennis, and Dustin has to yield the position. Just Dennis with that battery able to get by, and now the V-car back into that prime position for the final lap. It really is starting to get very tense at the front of this field. Meow went for a move on Tim Bayer into turn 10, wasn't able to pull it off. That allowed Drax to get by into Spoon Curve. And this is getting really, really spicy. You don't know who is going to win this one. Tim making a mistake through Degner 2. Drax taking a bit too much inside curb as well. If we head up into turn 10 once more, who will come out on top in this Grand Prix? Anything can change the complexion of this race. And that could be just the slightest of contact sending someone off into the wall, or just somebody making the moves at the right time, like Meow or Drax. They certainly could be the drivers that make their way up through the order on those mediums when they get the opportunities. We now head up into 130R once again as we're nearly about to start lap 22 of 27. Meow over the back of Drax. Is he going to look for the move into the Casio triangle? He's looking for it, but just trying to force his arrival into a mistake. as we now exit out of the Casio triangle once more to start lap 22 of 27. Is Dustin going to retaliate against Dennis Langrock this time around? No, he's in none. Is anyone going to go for a move into turn 1? No, they are not. So it's all line astern as it currently stands. Everybody just waiting for those final few laps for it all to kick off again. It is now just a waiting game. Be patient. Just make sure you are able to drive the way you want to. Listen to the car, get into a rhythm, and on that final lap, final few laps, sorry, let all hell loose. And you start to not care about the tyres, not care about the car. You're just focusing on getting that race win and overtaking as many drivers as possible.
Yeah, one driver that unfortunately won't be looking out for that too much is Dustin Vincent, who is on that 3-second time penalty, although I would assume he's going to try to appeal that, as we do see that Drax... Oh, we have another yellow in Sector 1. That is for Tim Tornimo. He's had a little bit of a moment there. I think he's lost the front wing end plate, so he's had contact with the wall. Not the race that Tim would have wanted, but thankfully for him, championship was already decided. Otherwise, this would be heartbreak in order to lose a potential championship fight. But he's likely going to dive it into the pits at the end of this lap and let that be it. F1 Racer has a sizable lap gap to Dennis Langrock. It's now about 4/10, but he's managing that pace quite well and not allowing the drivers behind him come close to him as much as they would like to. As I've also seen that Drax and Meow, despite being on those mediums, they've been stuck behind those hard fronters for quite a bit now. So I'm not sure if they're going to have the pace to go for some overtakes later on, because also here Drax has to concede, almost drives into the back of Tim Beyer, but he's not able to get past. Oh, there he goes! He goes to the inside, but that will cost him. He's pushed back by Tim Beyer, and it almost opens up the door for Meow. They have a little bit of contact there. Meow now trying to go around the outside, but Drax covers that off nicely. He tried to go for a move that was not on into turn 3, but he's getting desperate. He needs to make a move, but it hasn't worked out so far.
No, it certainly hasn't. That was a very desperate move to the inside from Drax. Maybe just starting to get a little bit restless, a little bit annoyed by the fact he's got this McLaren of Tim Beyer just stuck in front of him in his eye line, and he is not liking it one bit. So he went for a desperate lunge, and it did not work. Into turn 3 as a yellow flag. I think that's for Tim Tornimo once again, who unfortunately, this race, I feel like sums up the story of his season. Just so close, and just not having the luck when he needed it the most, especially with those virtual safety cars. And unfortunately, it's been another poor race from him. Here comes Meow on Drax. He's looking to the outside into the Casio triangle, but Drax just later on the brakes, able to stay in front of the Haas driver. There's contact, and that forces Meow all over the road. He has had a huge slide out of the Casio triangle. This now puts him under pressure from Aiden behind. Is Dennis going to go for the move? Yes, he is. Here comes Langrock to the inside of F1 Racer. Herc able to get past Meow as well. The Williams man able to separate the two medium runners, as Dallin McTeer's made a mistake, and he's had I think a little spin on the exit of the Casio triangle. But Langrock now leads from F1 Racer Vincent Beyer, and then Drax rounds out your top 5. It really is starting to get a little bit tasty here in Suzuka, and Langrock retakes that race lead after those few laps where he lost it, as he now exits out of Techno 2 with the Scarlet Red Ferrari still looming large in his mirrors.
Yeah, it looks like the medium runners are starting to lose ground onto the hard runners. The gap from Drax to Tim Beyer has now increased to almost a second, and it looks like Aiden is really finding some extra pace on those 14-lap-old hards as he's closing in on Drax on the 9-lap-old mediums. He needs to clear them as fast as possible, because otherwise he is going to lose sight of the men fighting for that race win, and that's Tim Beyer, Dustin Vincent, F1 Racer, and Dennis Langrock. So Aiden now is going to use quite a bit of energy. Look at that, just powering down the backstretch, and he's gotten past Drax, but he needs to cut another 3/10 off of it. We have, oh, that is one of the McLaren's going very wide, but this allows Aiden to come back into the fight. The gap now, 7/10. Will he get DRS here already? It looks like he doesn't, at least for a time being. It allows Drax into the fight, though. Drax is going to send it down to the inside, so they're getting back at the drivers up ahead. But with the gaps increasing more and more, it looks like Aiden is also going to fall out of contention, and we will have a fight between 3 or 4 drivers. Dustin, of course, has that penalty, so for now we'll just look at the 3 drivers that don't and are in for the fight. Dennis Langrock, who currently leads, has not won a race yet. F1 racer who has won one, and Tim Beyer also without a race win so far.
Yeah, we'll now wait and see how these next 3 laps will go. Dustin Vincent having an uncharacteristic error there, making the mistake with the lockup and nearly into the back of his teammate as well. Really starting to make some errors on these 14-lap-old hard compounded tyres. F1 Racer is still looking to try and get past Dennis Langrock, but I reckon he's just going to keep putting this one off. He doesn't want to go for the move just yet, and he's just going to keep saving that battery behind the V-carb. He's nearly at a full battery at this moment in time. Drax is within DRS range of this top 4 as well, so he's still lurking to pick up any scraps from this battle. Here comes F1 Racer though. He's used the slipstream. He's not used any battery at all to go for a move on Langrock. Not able to get it done into the Casio triangle. The Scuderia Ferrari now getting the exit that he needs. DRS will be open down that main straight. He knows he's got the opportunity to get the move done and keep the threat from Tim Beyer behind. And there we go. There goes F1 Racer. Here comes Tim Beyer to the inside of Dennis Langrock. And that was so close to calamity as Dustin Vincent tried going around the outside. Not able to pull that one off. And Drax has fallen behind Meow and Aiden Hurt there on lap 26 of 27. But that could have been race over for Tim Beyer with contact with Dennis Langrock. But luckily knew it was smart enough to get to back out of that move. But oh my, was that close to an absolute disaster on the penultimate tour.
And the drivers are now going to lap the man who's finished second in the championship. That is Tim Tornimo, for who that yellow in Sector 2 is for. But yeah, the fight heating up behind F1 Racer, who seemingly has the best pace. He's managed to get about a 6/10 gap to Dennis Langrock just in behind. And I think F1 Racer will want to go for a second race win here this season and at least crown a nice ending to the season and holding on to third place in the standings, as Lewis Jones was eyeing for that with a 9th place for him so far, though likely not going to be gaining much more either. Means that he is out of contention. But look at that, Aiden has actually managed to close the gap onto Dustin Vincent, so he is back into the fight as well. We have 8 drivers within DRS range, with Alexi also starting to get back into the fight. But as we enter the final lap, F1 Racer is your race leader. He's got a sizable gap over Dennis Langrock. And behind, I think Meow is going to have the first look onto Aiden Hurd, but he's going to stay behind, so he can't go for the overtake. Dennis is getting within 3/10 of F1 Racer, who's saving a little bit of battery heading into turns 3, 4, and so onwards. The S-curves that Suzuka is so world famous for, as he manages to keep that gap nice and tight. Dennis really needs to start and amp up the pace here as we head towards Deckner's 1 and 2, and he's gone the gap down to about 3/10. Needs to go for it now. We see that the Ferrari is not being able to pull away as much as he was before, with Dalamateer setting the fastest lap time on those softs, and he's in P10, so that would of course grant him an extra point if that were to be. But here is then Dennis Langrock still trying to get closer to F1 Racer. Knows he needs to do it at the backstretch. He's got about 38% of battery. F1 Racer has not got much more, so Dennis Langrock with the slipstream perhaps could do it. There are blue flags, I'm not sure what those are for, but here then comes Dennis Langrock for the first win this season. There's some defense round the outside. Dennis Langrock tries it, almost catching the grass here, and now trying to send it down the inside, but good defending by F1 Racer. There's contact. There's a little bit of contact, but F1 Racer's trying to stay ahead. Dennis gets also close, but it is race victory for F1 Racer. Tim Beyer getting awfully close to the back of Dennis Langrock, and they round off the podium, but it's F1 Racer with a second podium, the second race win of the season.
Wow, brilliantly held on there from F1 Racer. Knew exactly where to place his car. And for him, that was an absolutely well-executed victory there. Got the move done on lap 26 after losing it only a few laps prior. And he managed to hold on for that race victory. And for F1 Racer, absolute delight. And for Dennis Langrock, heartbreak at the final hurdle. He looked so strong throughout the whole Grand Prix, and unfortunately just wasn't able to convert that into a race victory. So he has to settle for another second place. And to end off the season, Tim Bayer picks up a podium, his best result of the season, and makes that point tally 16 points. But a brilliant way to end off his season to set him up for next by getting that podium. So for Tim, absolutely well done for him. Congrats on your first podium. But for F1 Racer, sheer delight here in Suzuka, and that will tee him up nicely for season 19.
Quite the race that we had indeed, as the game says Dennis Langrock is your driver of the day, but we'll have a look at that as we take our look at the final standings here, because it's F1 Racer starting from P5 in the grid, winning the race here, just 2 tenths separating him and Dennis Langrock, who came from 7th on the grid, finishing in P2, with Tim Bayer rounding off the podium in 3rd. Then we found Meow in P4, followed by Aiden, Alexi, Lewis, Dallin, Kevin West, and Gabriela Stella, but it looks like Drax and Dustin Vincent have been booted down a little bit. I believe Drax was ahead. Yes, he would have been in 6th, and Dustin would have been in 7th. So that demotes Lewis to 9th and Dallin to 10th, with the rest out of the points. And yet Tim Tornimo sadly leapt, and with Oliver not DNFing fairly early on. And by looking at the Discord chat, Max, I think that what has happened at the pit lane is where Tim Bayer did clip the wall a little bit. That kind of made Lewis slam into the back of him, causing them both damage, and most notably Lewis, who lost an awful lot of time there, and that pretty much cost him his race. Was not able to get back into the fight. Dustin, who's had some tough moments as well, but I think the driver that kept it most clean, has done the nicest, is your race winner for tonight, and that's F1 Racer.
Yeah, it certainly is. It really was F1 Racer who just kept it clean throughout. I mean, it might have been a bit scrappy onto the Casio triangle with that defensive move, but overall, he was very, very clean, and overall, a deserving winner for that one. So, yeah, the F1 Racer, brilliantly done, and what a way to end off the season for him. It's unfortunate after that start of the season that he wasn't able to turn it into a championship challenge, but he can certainly be happy with 2 wins, because that was a very hard-fought race, and a race that maybe onto the final lap, it seemed a bit more difficult for him to win.
It seemed very difficult for him to win, but he's held it along nicely, and he's managed to take his 2nd race win of the season in total, and he's gotten decently close to... Well, actually, he was 5th in the standings. He's leapfrogged Lewis Jones, and he's leapfrogged Gabriel Patrese. So it's F1 Racer actually finishing 3rd in the standings as a result. So very well done. For Lewis, it's not enough to leapfrog Gabriel, so he stays 5th in those standings. So yeah, very well done by him. Dustin, of course, still takes it, had already taken it. And furthermore, not too many changes in the standings. But we're quickly going to move on to the interviews, because it looks like we have Dennis Langrock waiting for the interview in the interview room. He has already had a podium, a 2nd place in Italy, but now his second place here around Japan. We're quickly going to move over to the interviews, and I'm going to move in Dennis Langrock. So here we have him then, the man finishing in P2, his 2nd P2 of the season, ending his season on a high. It is Dennis Langrock.
Hello, welcome back.
Welcome back indeed. It's good to see you here. Definitely seeing you so far at the, towards the end of the season, now that we've had our final race. First thoughts on the season. How did your season go? How was it?
Yeah, like I even said, season was tricky. I've got the start not so good, got taken out many times, and many incidents, and now I was getting quite better, often podiums. I think I got 4 podiums, but they got penalized, so I got 2. And yeah.
Well, tonight, fortunately, went a lot better for you. You finished P7 in the qualifying session. How was qualifying for you, Dennis?
Yeah, qualifying was a little bit hard for me. I was on a 0.3 first lap, maybe, I think. And then going for a 0.1 at my last lap. Yeah, a little bit difficult for me. I was in practice doing point 0, but didn't manage it to get it in qualifying, so I hope for my race pace, and yeah.
Yeah, and talking about your race pace, that seemed to be quite good. But what we saw you guys do on the mediums, you went for quite an early pit stop. Was this planned? Because I believe you came in at lap 8, and that is quite early here at Suzuka.
Yeah, that was quite early, but my plan was to undercut these guys, but this went very good. I was 2 seconds off, and then they got DRS changed, and then they catched me, and yeah, these last laps were just crazy.
Yeah, the last lap, so much was going on. We've had to keep our eyes on it all the way through. You managed to get quite close to F1 Racer, but was there ever a moment for you where you thought that you could get the race victory?
Yeah, maybe in the long left. I was going for the overtake from the outside. I was trying over the grass. He was pushing me a little bit wide on the grass, but it's okay, it's racing. And yeah, I was trying to go for the overtake, late brakes, but I didn't manage to get it and want to do a safe P2. And yeah.
All right, fair enough. Then moving on to Max, any questions for you, from Dennis?
Yes, first of all, congratulations on another podium, Dennis. One from me. What has been your favourite race of the season, in your opinion?
My favorite race in season was Italy, I think so. I think you guys commentated this too. This was a wet race and was very tricky and nice race for me. I was starting quite good in Italy on this full wets, and yeah, I think that was one of the nice races. And yeah, and today too. So
Yeah, that I think Myth was there for that, not me, but Myth did say that was a very entertaining race. So yeah, congratulations, Dennis, and hopefully next season you get a bit more glory.
yeah, we will come back stronger. Better start than last time. So yeah.
Well, you definitely ended the season here on a high, so thank you very much for joining us here in the interview box. Once again, congratulations on your P2, and hopefully next season we will find you on the top step.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night. Bye bye.
Yes, I can only agree with that. I'm really happy to finally have scored some points at the end of the season because looking back, unfortunately, I was lacking a bit in terms of attendance recent races, but I think I already showed at like certain qualifyings like Mexico or Brazil, where I've been quite at the front, that I've some decent pace, and today was definitely very exhausting, but yeah, nice way to finish the season.
Yeah, very good qualifying pace indeed. Coming out there in second place, just 1,000 ahead of your teammate and championship winner. How is the relationship between the two of you this season?
Actually, I'm getting along really well with Dustin. So we're not actually in call during the races, but we always pay attention to leaving space to each other and not, yeah, causing any chaos, so that both of us have a chance for a good result.
All right, and then throughout the race, of course, it was quite a tough fight. So much going on all the way throughout the race. How do you look back on the race?
Personally, I have to say, I wasn't that comfortable on the medium, so in the first stint. But looking back, I think on the hard it was really, really tough. The hard was definitely a lot better, in my opinion, was more stable, more consistent. But yeah, obviously the last 5 to 6 laps were really intense. So there was always a big, yeah, strategic disaster because whenever you're in front and not having any DRS, you can get eaten up very easily. But at the same time, track position is so crucial around this track because yeah, it's just very very tight, the track, and not too much spots for overtaking. So yeah.
All right, so very, very clear words from you. Then moving on to you, Max. Any questions that you have?
Yeah, one from me, Tim. Of course, first of all, congratulations on your first podium of the season. I just want to know, how does it feel to finally get onto the podium after some pretty tough races?
Actually, it feels very awesome. I think Mexico it was. I started from pole and then didn't even got home with some points. So I think to finish the season off in this way is yeah just very unique, and also I'm very satisfied with that result now. So yeah,
Well, yeah, congratulations, Tim, and
thank you.
yeah, hopefully your luck is a bit better next season. But yeah, it was a very, very strong drive from you tonight.
Thank you very much.
All right, and with that, we've had our man who was second, and we had our man who finished third, and now we're going to move on to the man that won the race here tonight. It's his second race victory of the season, finishing third in the standings. Let's move in, F1 Racer.
Let me try. Oh.
There we go. There we have him. So our race winner for tonight, his second race win once more that he's gotten this season, and that final race win, very important because F1 Racer, you have now finished third in the standings.
Yeah, thank you. It was kind of the goal for today. I knew that Lewis was faster than me, but well, if you've seen it in the chat, how he lost his front wing, I feel bad for him, but of course I take it.
Yes, we do take that indeed. Now you started P5 in the grid. How was qualifying for you? You seem to be quite fast out there.
Well, it's for the first time I had kind of practice because I had a community cup yesterday in Japan as well. So I had that at practice. Yesterday I bottled a 26.9. Today I didn't get it together at all. But well, I think RIP was low anyway because nobody kind of peaked into the 26.7 or something. So I don't know. I was happy with P5 to be honest, because in the beginning I thought, okay, it's WR. I'm gonna be P10, 11, 12, like always. But when P5 was there, 1 cent down, I was happy.
Yeah, and then you were one of the drivers that stopped later than the other drivers out there on track. Some drivers stopping 2 laps earlier, other drivers just stopping 1 lap earlier. Meant you had the freshest tires of the pack. Did that play into your hands? Did that give you the upper hand at the end of the race?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. I really don't know if tire degradation was a problem for Dennis because he was 2 laps longer than me. But I guess the most important thing was that Lewis and I guess Tim lost their race in the pit lane because of something that happened there. I don't know, because I've overcut them with the most shit in lap that I ever did. And yeah, and from then onwards I was P2 for the whole time until I catch up to Dennis in DRS. And yeah, in the end I don't know. I don't know how much space I left there, if there was something to be looked at, but I'm really happy on my race because I think I did everything what I could do, and if I wouldn't have won this race, I guess I would have never won any race. So
yeah, you did exceptionally well. Now, of course, you started off the season on a high with a second and a first place. After that, you had a little bit of a spell with some poor results. Now, thankfully, ending the season on a high with a race win. But throughout the middle part of the season, I am a little bit curious. How did that go for you?
yeah, it's just because on the start of WR and on the start of the game, of course, I was kind of like still practicing and getting involved and trying my best and finding setup solutions and everything. And then the weeks after, things just didn't click for me. I just didn't feel motivated enough. It was kind of summer. It was like it's warm outside. I was enjoying life outside of the game, and the game itself, the racing was not something I was looking forward to. So I stopped practicing. And yeah, and that's in this league with this competition, you just get eaten up and you end up P7, 8, 9, and when you're stuck in the DS train, you don't come back normally. So that was like my season going away from me, and of course I missed out on 2 races. I think I've missed Austria and I missed Monza. So yeah, 2 races less than everybody else, I guess. So yeah, but anyway, like without practice, you're just they're just too good at this game, and if they practice they say always they don't practice at all, but have like 100 hours more than me in the game. So
Yeah, they're definitely lying there a little bit. But it's nice to hear so many motivating words about your competitors. Indeed, practicing does pay off. We've seen the races that you were definitely practicing in there. There were some podiums for you, if not struggling to get into that top 10, but still ending the season on the high and third in the standings. That's a nice way to do it. But that brings up, of course, with a little look at next season. What are your goals for next season, Fundraiser?
well, it kind of depends. Like, if I find my way back to motivating myself, I think everything is on the card. Since I guess like people like Dustin will get like, first of all, Dustin, congratulations for winning the championship again. Like he won it last week, but last week I didn't have a chance to say something. But like people like Dustin will get promoted, I guess, and other people will come back maybe. So I don't know. Like I'm feeling confident enough to say that if I practice, I can fight for like podium places. But if I don't, I will end up like I ended up in the middle of the season. So depends, I guess.
All right, very good, very good. Then Max.
Yes, first of all, congratulations on your race win, F1 Racer. What I want to ask, what is your favourite moment of the season?
I guess it's a switchback maneuver in Belgium, which when I won my first race this season. Like I was P3 going into the bus stop chicane, and I think it was Gabriele and Dustin fighting, and they kind of got into each other's way, and I got a nice run out of bus stop and like overtook both of them. I think that's one, like winning the race in the last corner, going into the corner on P3 is, I think it's a move that I will remember, of course, and I think it's the best moment this season. Like I didn't have so many highs. So besides this race and the Belgium race, so I take it.
Yeah, it was that was a really good move actually on that final lap. But yeah, I mean, congratulations tonight, and yeah, thoroughly deserved race win. You just seem to really keep your head in the game and not really get too flustered around with the drivers around you.
Yeah, it's Japan, and there are only two overtaking opportunities. Are the last corner, last chicane, and into turn 1 with DRS. So in the S's, I kind of it's just driving on your own, like because nobody can overtake you there, and if somebody hits you, you're done anyway. So from there on, yeah, it's just. Just don't look at the gaps. If you look at the gaps, like into the S's or going into the hairpin, you just lock up or you screw up, and everything goes into the bin. So I was driving my race on myself, and at some point I thought I could maybe break the ERS on Dustin as well, because I was kind of away, but then he got a little more ERS than me, and I ended up like a tenth short. But I think pace was fine today. I don't know what happened at the beginning, because on the mediums I was like clearly faster, but on the hard, yeah, it's just the way it is sometimes. Sometimes it clicks, and if I get the confidence, I guess I can race.
Yeah, well, you certainly can, and yeah, thoroughly well-deserved victory, and yeah, hopefully we see you back here and maybe winning more races next season.
Well, I would hope so. If I'm back in WR next season, I guess, and I hope I will compete for victories again.
All right. right, that sounds good. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And then we have actually 2 more drivers waiting for us into the commentary box. Now, normally, of course, we only interview our top 3 of the race, but I think now we've also had our 3rd man in the standings, and with the 2nd and 1st in standings still waiting for us, I think it's only fitting that we also move on to them. So let me first move in Tim Turnimo, who didn't have the best race here tonight, but has had a season, quite the season, to look back at. So here we have him then, Tim Turnimo, finishing 2nd in the standings. His spell of 7 straight podiums has sadly ended with that race tonight. But Tim, what a season you've had here at WR.
Yeah, for sure. An amazing season with 7 podiums in a row now. I mean, would have wanted 8, but I guess you can't have it. So I'm happy with 7 podiums and a win. I'll take that. An amazing season.
Yeah, and last week out there as well, we had, of course, a championship interview with Dustin. He gave, he sent out a lot of nice words over to you, Tim. What was going through your mind when you heard that?
Well, I mean, very thankful. Obviously, that he believes in me and thinks I have the pace to potentially go up a tier and do good there, which is amazing to hear. But I think, yeah, it's really nice to have someone like him around the field. He's obviously he's a little bit older than the other guys, so he knows what he's talking about, and he's a nice driver, nice guy, and he respects and gives space. It's very nice.
Well, then we've now come to the end of season 18. You ended off in 2nd, definitely a very, very good result. What are you eyeing for season 19?
Well, hopefully I'm hoping to get up into tier 3 and maybe prove myself there and score a podium or just top 5 in general. I'm just looking for consistent points there. But a podium would be my main target, I think. So yeah, that's what I'm aiming for.
Well, I think you definitely deserve to be up there in tier 3. Max, going on to you. Any questions that you have for Tim?
Yeah, Tim, one for me. Of course, congratulations on your season. Talk about your season. What was your favourite race that you participated in this season?
I mean, it has to be Brazil or Abu Dhabi or even Bahrain. Obviously, I won in Brazil, my first podium and win. But I mean, the race was pretty boring. It was just a DRS chain. But I think I'll give it to Abu Dhabi. I think it was mixed strats with everyone, and it was just everyone switching positions. The whole top 15 was in the train. I think it was really fun, and I was battling with Dustin and Racer, F1 Racer, the whole race. So I'd definitely give it to Abu Dhabi.
Well, that was, of course, I wasn't there for that race, so that was actually a very good rundown of it. Thank you, Tim. But yeah, congratulations on your season, and hopefully we see many more spectacular races like we have from you to come.
Yeah. See you here again.
All right, see you again, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yep. Thanks for commentating.
Then we've had quite some interviews today, but there's still one more left, and that interview is with the champion. So let's quickly move in DV19, Dustin Vincent, to congratulate him once more on a championship and also look back on a thrilling, I think, a nerve-wracking race for him in Japan. So here we have, then, the final interview for tonight. Your championship winner, Dustin Vincent. We, of course, had the big celebrations coming out next week, but I think after turn 1, you must have been extremely pleased that the championship was already wrapped up.
Definitely, guys. And first of all, thank you so much for commentating. Thank you all for doing this the whole season. Awesome streams. Never had so much fun watching those streams in the real life. Was definitely awesome. And yeah, I just don't know what to say. I'm kind of annoyed because this race today could have been way better because I think my race pace was kind of clear without being too arrogant, I think. I mean, I was P3. I got hit like twice in the opening lap. In turn 5, my race was basically over. I was 15th. I had a gap of 2 seconds to the second last car. And after pit stops, I found myself in the leading train again, which showed me I was definitely on for a race victory in Japan and my favorite track. And yeah, it could have been way better. I'm just happy the championship was already wrapped up, and yeah,
Yeah,
I'm happy Racer won this race today.
that's good. Yeah, we saw for you and for Tim tonight was not the best sort of races, but we've seen you get involved in 2 moments of contact. The one on lap 1 we caught on stream nicely, so that might be something for you to watch back later on as well. But I think we've had a little bit of a moment that you had later on with some drivers up ahead and getting really close, and that also
Yeah.
resulting in a 3-second time penalty for you. Was that penalty deserved, or is that something
Nah.
that you're going to appeal?
Nah, I out for the game. If you know what I mean, I exited it, like immediately after crossing the line. Doesn't really
No. I
matter.
mean, with about, I think we had a little bit more than 5 laps to go. You got a 3-second time penalty
Yeah,
for
I know.
track limits.
I know it was definitely not deserved. I avoided a collision of those 3 guys in front of me, and also I got a 4th warning in the second last lap. I think I got pushed a little bit and got a 4th warning. So shit happens, guys. I don't have the race director. I just wanted to finish the season, and I'm just happy that I'm here in the interview. Congrats to Tim Tornimo. Great young guy. He will improve a lot. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe we will hear us again in tier 4, 3, 2. I don't know. But if not, it was a pleasure having those kind of interviews and you as commentators.
Yeah, well, of course, we had you for the season opener in Australia. That's when me and Max were here in the commentary box. Sadly, Max was not there last week when I was able to congratulate you with the title. But with you coming into the commentary box tonight, Max does still have that opportunity to congratulate you. So let's quickly move over to Max so he can have some words with you, Dustin.
Yeah, congratulations, Dustin. Been an absolutely fantastic season from yourself. Just how did it? Of course, you probably told Myth how it felt, but how did it feel winning the championship last week?
Pleasing. I would say this is the perfect word for it because I didn't even know if I could participate in Jeddah because my water cooler, he basically DNF'd before the race, and I needed to buy an air cooler for my processor, and yeah, it arrived like 1.5 hours before the race. There was no kind of practice for Jeddah, and it was so good, and I couldn't really understand that I got the championship like 1 race prior to the end of the season. It was just awesome.
Yeah, that must have been a very rewarding experience then with that whole
Definitely.
water cooler incident there. But yeah, I mean, it was an absolutely fantastic season from yourself. What was your favorite race from this season?
To be honest, I think Australia, Melbourne. I mean, winning by 1,000 of a second. It was so rewarding because before Melbourne, I haven't won a race. I think 1.5 years. The last race I won was beginning of 2023, so it was awesome. It was the first race, the competitive race I took part in, and yeah, it was just awesome. And from that moment on, it was a good start to start the season.
Yeah, it was a good way to get the ball rolling
Yeah,
for your
definitely.
championship campaign. But yeah, I mean, it's been a fantastic season from yourself. I mean, I think with that penalty, that's the lowest you finished all season. So still, 7th place from the races that you have finished,
Yeah.
that being the lowest, that's just such an insane consistency from yourself. And yeah, a thoroughly deserved champion. And yeah, congrats. And hopefully we see you do bigger and better things, hopefully, in Tier 3 next season.
Maybe. Maybe, guys. Thank you.
Well, Dustin, thank you so much for joining us. That also wraps up all the interviews for tonight, and that also wraps up the season that we've had here. Max, some chats that we can have together. So, of course, our first season commentating here together at WR, but it's absolutely been a blast. It's been a great season. We've had so many action going on. We started off the season, of course, with a massive high. We've had some spells, sadly, where we couldn't commentate together, but I'm just glad that we were able to end it the way that we started it this season, together in the commentary box and with a great, great race to end it.
Yeah, we certainly did have an absolutely spectacular race to end off the season, and yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to be alongside you, Miff. Yeah, we've had races where one of us can't make it, or one of us has been changed to a different tier, but it's still been an absolutely amazing season, and certainly one of my favourites here in WR. It's been action packed from start to finish, and I don't think we could have started that one in a better way, and we've ended it off very nicely as well. So, yeah, it's been an absolutely amazing season, and yeah, thank you for being alongside me, Miff.
Yeah, thank you so much for being alongside me as well, Max. And we are going to look forward to what is still to come in Season 19. Of course, that is still to be announced, but hopefully myself and Max will be finding us together in the commentary box tonight. Still a shark, although the shark seems to be trying to get away from that. But yeah, as I said, hopefully me and Max will be able to share the commentary box next season, and whether that will be here in Tier 4 or perhaps a tier higher together with Dustin, we will find out later. But for tonight, this was it for Season 18 WRPC Tier 4 with your champion, Dustin Vincent. We'll be back hopefully soon and not too long for Season 19. That is still to be announced, but when it is, we will be back too. So see you all then, and have a good one.